There is a powder you can dissolve in warm water for $3 that stops rust. Not slows it, not delays it. It converts rust permanently into a waterproof compound that bonds to the steel surface and never comes back. One coat, 45 minutes. The U.S. military tested it against over 200 synthetic rust inhibitors at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in 1941. This powder outperformed every single one. The nearest competitor failed at 600 hours of continuous salt spray. This held past 1,000 hours. The results were declassified in 1947. Nobody talked about them. Roman soldiers used it on iron weapons before crossing into Gaul. Persian swordsmiths used it in the 7th century in Isfahan. Japanese craftsmen built it into the katana-making process. Every civilization that worked iron on every continent arrived at the same compound independently across 2,000 years. Then in 1952, the American coatings industry repackaged it under proprietary trade names and sold it back to you at 15 times the raw material cost. This is off their shelf. Where we opened the vaults, they locked shut. The discovery didn't happen in a laboratory, it happened in a tanning pit. Around the 2nd century AD, Roman leather workers were soaking raw animal hides in stone vats filled with crushed oak bark and water. Every iron tool that touched the solution stopped corroding. Knives that rusted within days in the Mediterranean air came out of those vats clean and stayed clean for months. Iron buckles dropped in by accident emerged coated in a thin, dark film that resisted water and salt. The tanners told the blacksmiths told the armorers. By the 2nd century, Roman military blacksmiths at frontier outposts were soaking chainmail in tannin baths after every river crossing, every rainstorm. Garrison records carved into tablets at Vindolanda, a Roman fort excavated near Hadrian's Wall in the 1970s, mention iron preservation baths using bark solutions, a 2,000-year-old maintenance record. The same chemistry you are about to learn. Rome wasn't alone. Persian metalworkers used crushed pomegranate rind above 28% tannic acid on sword blades. Japanese swordsmiths used fermented persimmon juice on katana cores. West African ironworkers used shea bark extract on machetes before monsoon season. Mapuche craftsmen in South America used quebracho tree extract on iron tools from Spanish colonists. Every civilization with iron and forests reached the same conclusion, independently. That is not folklore, it is convergent chemistry verified across 2,000 years and a dozen cultures. In 1813, a French chemist named Henri Braconnot isolated tannic acid as a pure compound and documented its reaction with iron oxide in the Annales de Chimie, one of the most respected scientific journals in Europe. What he described in his Paris laboratory, Roman tanners had stumbled onto 16 centuries earlier. The chemistry is this: tannic acid reacts with iron oxide, the orange flaking compound we call rust, and converts it into iron tannate, dark blue-black, completely insoluble in water. It does not flake, does not spread, and does not weaken the metal. It bonds permanently to the steel surface at the molecular level, not a coating sitting on top, a conversion from within. The rust becomes the armor. By 1850, the British Royal Navy was formally testing tannic acid solutions on iron warship hulls at Portsmouth. Admiralty maintenance logs preserved at the National Archives document ships treated with tannin solutions showing 60% less hull corrosion over 5 years compared to identical ships using standard lead-based paints. 60% with a solution that cost pennies per gallon. The military knew exactly how good this was. In 1941, the War Department launched a classified materials preservation program at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. Over 200 anti-corrosion compounds were tested on steel panels inside accelerated salt spray chambers. Tannic acid ranked first. The results were declassified in 1947 and have been publicly available ever since. Jeep chassis, ammunition cans, rifle barrels, and landing craft hinges were all treated with the same $3 solution during the war. Then the war ended. Companies like DuPont and Sherwin-Williams had spent the entire war scaling up synthetic petroleum-based rust inhibitor production. They had factories, sales forces, and distribution networks built around products that cost 10 to 50 times more than tannic acid. A powder any mechanic could mix in a coffee can for $3 was not a product opportunity, it was a threat. The suppression was quiet and structural. By 1952, a handful of corporations controlled over 70% of the domestic rust prevention market. Their model depended on one principle: rust must always be a recurring problem, never a solved one. Every can of rust primer on a hardware shelf assumes you will need another in 18 months. Every dealership undercoating service assumes you will come back next winter. Corrosion-related repairs account for roughly 30% of the U.S. auto parts aftermarket. Over $90 billion a year flow through garages and body shops because of rust damage alone. A permanent $3 solution does not fit inside that engine. It is permanent. You cannot patent tannic acid. It grows in oak bark, tea leaves, chestnut wood, grape seeds. It has no owner, so the industry repackaged it. Pull up the safety data sheet on any major brand rust converter: OSFO, Corosiel, Rust. Oleum Rust Reformer. Look at the chemical composition. Tannic acid is listed as the primary active ingredient in most of them. $3 worth of powder dissolved in petroleum solvents, poured into a branded bottle, sold back to you at 10 to 15 times the raw material cost. The 1978 Consumer Product Reformulation Guidelines made it easier. Manufacturers could list active ingredients under proprietary trade names instead of standard chemical nomenclature. Tannic acid became known as proprietary rust conversion compound or stabilized iron chelation formula. Same molecule, new vocabulary, higher price. Dealership rust protection packages, price from $500 to $2,000, use spray compounds containing tannin derivatives blended with petroleum wax. The tannic acid does the conversion. The wax creates the factory applied appearance. The price tag does the rest. You have been paying luxury prices for a compound your great-grandmother could have extracted from acorns. A 100-gram bag of food-grade tannic acid powder costs $3 to $5. That treats approximately 40 square feet of rusted metal surface, a full-size truck frame, a complete set of camp tools, and a season of cast iron cookware maintenance, $3.45. A professional automotive rust treatment, $300 to $800 for the same molecular reaction with a fancier spray gun. A dealership package, $500 to $2,000. Over 10 years of ownership in a Salt Belt state, a single truck owner typically spends $1,500 to $4,000 on rust-related repairs, $3 once, or $4,000 over a decade. That gap is what $90 billion a year in rust repair revenue depends on you never calculating. Buy food grade. Tannic acid powder from any grocery store, health food supplier, or bulk online retailer, a 100-gram bag. The label should say tannic acid, nothing else. Dissolve 4 grams of powder in 100 milliliters of warm water. Stir until fully dissolved. The liquid turns the color of strong black tea. That is your solution. Take a wire brush or coarse steel wool and scrub the rusted surface to remove loose, flaking material. You do not need to sand down to bare metal. This solution converts existing rust. It does not require you to remove it first. Apply the solution evenly using a foam brush, cotton rag, or spray bottle. Within 10 to 15 minutes, watch the rust shift from orange-brown to dark blue-black. That color change is the molecular conversion happening in front of you. Iron oxide is becoming iron tannate in real time. Let it air dry completely 2 to 4 hours. Apply a second coat the same way. After the second coat cures, the surface accepts any top coat you choose: paint, oil, wax, or rubberized undercoating. For cast iron cookware, convert the rust spots, let dry, and reseason at 350 degrees as normal. For camp tools and fixed blades, convert, then finish with boiled linseed oil or beeswax. For vehicle frames and undercarriages, convert, then follow with rubberized undercoating or use motor oil. One honest limitation: tannic acid works on iron oxide. It does not apply to aluminum, galvanized steel, or stainless steel. When rust is so advanced that the metal has lost structural thickness, conversion stabilizes what remains, but does not restore lost material. Know what you are working with. On everything else, including surface rust, pitting, and the orange spread that destroys outdoor gear and vehicle frames, this converts it permanently. Roman soldiers knew this, the British Navy documented it, the US military proved it against 200 competitors and ranked it first. $90 billion in annual rust repair revenue depends on you never doing that math. The powder costs $3. The rust on your truck frame, your tools, or your cast iron pan could be permanently converted by this weekend. If this is the kind of thing the industry does not want you to find, subscribe. We open one of these vaults every single day. This is off their shelf.